Hello, hello, Mr. Lowry. And again, after, 76 shows plus a couple of extra, I'm going to ask again that we need to check and make sure we're actually live.
Well, I am hopeful that we're alive. It's the week of Christmas, and I see us popped up live on Facebook. I see at least one person is listening to us
Hey,
or
we got
watching us.
we have one other person that wants to hear us get on our soapbox. I'm checking on my phone now. Yep, looks good, and I can hear some voices on the phone, so that's always a good thing. We have a lot to talk about tonight. You know, the title of the show is Park Shenanigans. My favorite word, one of them.
Yeah, and we got a little bit of a definition of what exactly is a shenanigan. I mean, some people think that's French, but I'm with you. I think it's Irish or something. I don't know. But yeah, park shenanigans and the police jury. We're going to take a walk around police jury lane. We haven't visited them in a while.
Yeah, so we're going to delve into that. Of course, the Cypress Park, and I don't know, whatever else we can think about. Oh, I think we're going to mention something about Kentucky. I didn't know we had a Bossier in Kentucky, but that's okay. Oh, and we're going to talk about the Plain Dealing Fire District. So, anyway,
Yeah, the Kentucky thing. We can jump off on that real quick before we go to our 2 minute countdown. Man, did you freaking hear about Kentucky? With the tornado up there and where it hit
well,
everybody and all that.
yeah, I mean, I watched the weather reports and aftermath and, some of the cool drone videos and all that, but what does that have to do with now? I mean, their stuff got
Well,
obliterated for Christmas. That's not cool.
now I don't know if it's accurate or not, but I heard like there's some reports coming out that saying that FEMA showed up. And they showed up with more COVID vaccines than they did with blankets and supplies for them folks.
Well, they got to keep everybody safe.
I
All
mean, good
those people gathered
gosh.
together in shelters and huddling together and, all of that, man. They got to keep everybody safe from the COVID monster.
I, I mean, this defies reality. They're saying that, and again, it's what's being reported. They're saying that, there's people being refused, access to their homes and to their businesses and things like that until they can prove that they've been vaccinated.
Oh,
What the
that
hell difference does that matter whether you're vaccinated or not to go into a destruction zone where your house has been blown away to see if you can get a pair of underwear or a shirt or something?
Well, that's definitely where I draw the line. All right, so we got about 30 people watching. Let's go ahead and do our little 2.5 minute countdown, folks. Y'all know the drill. Get some popcorn, get a stiff drink, tag a friend, phone a friend, send a friend a Facebook Messenger, or go watch on YouTube. We've got some insider information about the Cypress district. We hadn't talked about that situation in a while, so we're going to have a little interesting interview here in just a few minutes. And but meanwhile, let's do our countdown and let's think about those folks in Kentucky that have to show their vaccination papers, I guess.
Whew.
All right, here we go. We'll be right back, folks. Well, we have made it through another countdown.
We did. Ann Price says Lexi got a deer. Yes, she did, and she is proud of it. I
Good
don't know
for
how
her.
we pulled it off, but we did. I
Put
mean,
you
there is a
some meat in the
story
freezer.
there. Yeah, there is a story there, but
Well,
she made a good shot.
yeah, there you go. You may not want to share the full story.
She made multiple good shots.
There we go. We'll leave it at that. Hello there, Mr. Jimmy Richardson. Merry Christmas to you as well, and thanks for tuning in and watching. Okay, so we got it's kind of a small crowd. This is, the week of Christmas coming up. We're at 30 something people, give or take a few, plus probably a few extra on the other channels. So.
Yeah. Hey, Tim Mueller, glad you're here. Stiff drink, yeah. Especially by the end of this show, you guys at the end of this one here, you're going to need a stiff drink. That's all I'm going to tell you.
And that can be a stiff glass of wine. He did turn the water into wine, not grape juice. But anyway, I digress. So.
Yeah, boy, and we were right before we went to the 2 minute countdown thing or whatever. We were talking about that Kentucky thing. Yeah, you're right. I'm gonna tell you, boy, I would lose my mind over these vaccine brain dead control freaks. You try to tell me I can't go to my house and get a shirt or a picture or try to save something because don't have a vaccine. I'm telling you, and Kentucky. I mean, I ain't never lived there, but I got to think that them people would lose their minds.
Well, yeah, if that is the case, yeah, shame on FEMA. They're, just like the government always does, they take something that should be simple, help people, and they make it as complicated as possible. All right, so other than Kentucky and the FEMA situation, we have a guest coming on here in just a couple of minutes, and we're going to talk about the Cypress Park. Actually, some inside information from somebody that has stayed at the park multiple times.
Yeah, the Cypress Park was a lot went on early on in the year. We had the legislation trying to make some changes, and the Cypress Park went and spent a ton of taxpayer dollars trying to fight anything to change out there. And it makes you wonder why on earth would the Cypress Park spend taxpayer dollars to fight taxpayer wishes. It blow. It doesn't. It's not even good logic. It don't make any sense.
Maybe we need to put, or at least they should put a wishing well or something out there, in front of the little building where they have the Cypress meetings, and we could at least throw pennies in there and make a wish that they would do stuff, but they would actually use our pennies to do that, I guess. I don't know. It's always something with them. But anyway, so we're going to bring the guest on here in a second, and we're going to talk about Brian Hammonds, newly elected city councilman for District 1. Today was his swearing-in ceremony, and he asked some questions, and he actually made some votes. And he kind of messed up the very first vote that he did, but we'll show that here in a little while.
So Brian Hammonds arrives on the scene in Bossier City. Now, something that I see that we did leave off our list there, but I guess we only have so much room. Right. Plain dealing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, plain dealing is coming back in the news here. So if y'all folks up in plain dealing, you may not know it, but you're fixing to be back on the hot seat again here pretty soon, and you've got some decisions to make. Especially if you want to pay a little bit more in taxes. You're front and center. You may want to pay attention to what's upcoming.
That could be interesting. And I guess while we're sitting here, I should probably share this out into the plain dealing group. So I'll do that. All right, so do you want to kind of set up our guest a little bit, and we'll go ahead and bring her on?
Yeah, I'll do that. You catch plain dealing. So, you guys know that we covered the Cypress District. We tried to point out to the folks of Bossier Parish the significance of the Cypress District, and it's more than just a park. There was a lot of money, federal money that was put in here to build the Cypress Black Bayou, lakes and recreation area, and it was backup water supplies for the city of Bossier and Bossier Parish. That was the original purpose of the deal, and you've got this board out there that is, I think it's one of only two boards, basically, I would say, unaccountable boards to the citizens of the parish. There's only two of them like it in the whole state of Louisiana. and they
Well,
can pretty much do.
I refer to them as bureaucrats. That's just basically what they are. You basically have your politicians at this level, and your bureaucrats are down here, kind of, I don't know, in many cases bottom feeders to me, but that's just my view.
Yeah, and Rex, you were the guy kind of really on top of this thing, and I don't think it was so much of a personal deal. Yeah,
No,
you pay taxes to pay for this thing, so you have a interest in it. I live on one of the lakes up here. I have an interest as well too, but you kind of got out in front on this thing early and were pointing out that, hey, look, there's red flags going up everywhere, that there's problems up here,
right.
and we've tried to raise the red flags to our elected officials, and our elected officials, it's as if, I don't know, it's as if the Cypress district has something on them, and
Something.
they don't want to acknowledge it. They don't want to do anything about it. They want to just turn a blind eye. And then, State Representative Dodie Horton steps to the plate and tries to get something legislatively done. And it's like they want to fry her at the stake because
Right.
she's got the courage to try to do something about the problem.
Well, and speaking of that, one of the guys out there that's been the main one in the crosshairs, I mean, everything from a dual office holding lawsuit that's still ongoing with the Attorney General and some other things has been also the park director, Robert Berry. And speaking of Robert Berry, that's one of the issues that our guest, let me go ahead and bring her on, has had some issues with, is with Robert Berry. So let me bring Charlene Stanley on. Can you hear us, Charlene?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
That's awesome. I can hear you. Duke, can you hear our guest?
I hear her loud and clear.
Technology is amazing. So welcome to the show, Charlene. And yeah, why don't you maybe kind of just introduce yourself a little bit? Who are you? How do you know about Cypress Lake? Kind of what's your real quick intro?
Okay. So, yeah, my name is Charlene Stanley. We actually live in Ohio, although we're not there very much these days because we have an RV and travel around. But we have grandkids and great grandkids in Bossier City, Benton area. They've been there for quite some time. Our grandson is he's active military at Barksdale Air Force Base. And so we spend a lot of time in the area, and we love Cypress Black. It is our place of choice to stay because of the lake and everything. And in all honesty, we try to lay low a little bit because of the fear that we would not be able to camp there if we said anything or left any reviews or anything like that. But
Hmm.
after the last period that we were there, I just decided that we didn't have a whole lot to lose, and I feel bad for the people that are residents there, and the fact that some of them may be having a lot of the same difficulties.
Well, that's kind of interesting that you mentioned the word fear, because honestly, that's why a lot of people, a lot of local people around here don't always speak up because, the good old boys network down here, Duke and I have talked about a lot, a lot of people fear repercussions or whatever. So I guess we'll just jump right into it, and Duke cut me off at the pass whenever, too, but what would cause you to fear not being able to go back to the campground, or I mean, kind of set us up with the situation? How long have y'all been visiting down to Cypress Lake, and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so we've been coming to Cypress Black since about 2019. Our we used to frequent some of the other lakes, and then our grandson moved up to Benton,
Hmm.
and so we found this beautiful place, and so started going there in 2019. Um, as far as why I would say that there was some fear there, I think it was because we had seen that, to be honest, that from the very first time we were there, that the culture there of the staff who, we never had any problems with. They were very pleasant, most of them, and helped us when they could, but I felt like they were afraid. And they would frequently say, we've got to call the director about just even the most simple little requests. And and as time went on, as I tell you a little bit more, I almost got to the feeling that, we were kind of almost being harassed or targeted or something, like, and so then that even made me more cautious about saying very much.
So, were y'all like problem RVers, or just are y'all the needy RVers that need everything just perfect, or was was it just general things? Because we were talking kind of before the show started, and I shared with you that when I was younger, not long after Cypress Lake and all that were filled up and the park was out there, we used to go to the beach all the time with my family, and we would go camp out there. And I remember that period as it was just a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
what would change? I mean, what are some of these things that were kind of happening?
Yeah, so yeah, we we try very hard not to be the problem campers. We take it very seriously, and especially as more and more people camp. We've been doing it for 30 years or something, and so have always tried to be great camping citizens. We leave it better than we found it usually, that kind of thing. But I think what changed. So 2019, was not too bad. Had a few little things, but it was nothing really. Then in 2020, we started to really see more of a change, which at first I honestly attributed to COVID. Um, but so they had shut down the park and we left. We were there at the time when they shut it down, and then we came back later when it reopened, and we started being told that we couldn't stay more than 30 days. We'd had some specific things going on with our one grandson had surgery and some other things, and so they put this restriction out there, and they were almost empty. I mean, there was almost anyone there, and so I was kind of questioning, well, why, if the park is empty. I could see it if you were like running over and people were banging down your doors, but at that time it wasn't like that. So they took our reservations, but they would only book me for 2 weeks at a time, and so our spot would not get reserved or blocked. And so then when I would call to extend, they would say, oh, well, someone else booked that spot, and so you're going to have to move. And I said, well, but I thought you said you weren't taking reservations past this period, this
No,
2 week
no,
period. So how in the world could someone else have booked it?
now, Charlene, are you talking about the same time and there's nobody else out there?
There was very few. I mean, like I said, it was, yeah, it was when it was like post COVID, and people were still, not really, getting out there too much. The weather, it wasn't like the peak summer period. And so, yeah, there were lots and lots of spots open. And so I could never get an answer to how people were booking past that 2 week period when I couldn't. But a lot of times, someone within the park a kind person would try to kind of help us on the weekends and make sure that, they would get us moved around so that we didn't have to keep moving every 2 weeks. Um, and so that was, again, that was frustrating, but 2021 took it to a whole new level. So when I drove
Well,
to check in,
well,
oh, go ahead.
I want to go back before you go on to 2021. Let's stop because if I'm reading correctly, kind of what you're alluding to, it's almost as if you're saying that there were spots available and maybe they were trying to prevent you from coming back or extending. I mean, they could have, and they were trying to stop you. Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, yeah, I couldn't understand why, you know, they would say, well, you'll have to call us back. And they said it was because of this electrical work going on, and they weren't sure when it was going to be going on and stuff. But, and again, so I could accept that, except that if that were the case, then why are you taking other bookings?
Right.
past that 2-week period. So, I don't want to come out and say that they were doing that, but like I said, in the next year, in 2021, I started to go, wait a minute, what is going on here? And
Well,
so when
let,
we drove to,
let me
yeah, go
interject.
ahead.
Let me interject for just a second. So, during the 2020 period, when they were telling you, well, okay, so we got a 2 week limit. I mean, I can kind of see that again, like you said, if they're busy and people had already reserved that particular spot, and you were trying to stay longer than 2 weeks or whatever. But did they ever actually have you move from one spot to another during 2020?
Yeah, they did.
And did your old spot get filled up, or did it stay empty, or do you remember any of that?
It did. It
Okay.
did because, again, I could see why, because if you're working at the front office and someone calls in and we're only booked, let's say, through January 1st, of course they would say,
Right.
oh, it's open. Like I said, a few people started catching on and started trying to help us by, like, putting a block or whatever so that we wouldn't keep having to get shifted around. But it
Yeah.
was just very bizarre.
Okay. All
Well,
right. So,
you guys were coming frequently because I mean, my understanding about you is that you guys might, and I don't want to like give you the big head or anything, but I'm told that you guys are probably one of the most frequent, folks to come out there and
Yeah.
camp, and probably some of the most loyal guests to the park that maybe it's ever had, and you would think that if you guys are staying as frequent as you are, that there may be some deference to the fact that you may want to continue to stay more than the 2 weeks, right? Especially when
Yeah.
you got vacant
And
spots right beside you.
right. Yeah,
well,
that's the way it is most places that where you are camping frequently and you're well known, and like I said, you're a good citizen, camper citizen.
right.
Yeah, then usually there's some, you know, flexibility.
Well, and it's not like y'all are getting this free either. You're literally paying
No.
frequent, regular customers. Can you share with us? Do you remember? I'm sure you probably do. How much the RV spots are out there?
Um, there's two rates. One is for the non, where you don't have a full hookup, and then there's a full hookup rate. But at the full hookup, I think we were paying, and there's no monthly rate. They
Right.
only do a daily. And so I think it was about $50 a night for the without sewer, and I think about 60 for those that had it. Don't quote me on that, because
Right.
but
But
I seem to remember we were around $500 a month. Yeah, it
that's what
it
I was going to
was.
say. Y'all have probably spent over the course of time thousands of dollars. I mean,
Oh yeah.
you know, you would think maybe they would comp y'all a few stays every now and then because you spent so much
Yeah.
money out there. I mean, they're kind of known for doing that, maybe, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, I'm sorry. Continue on.
Yeah, so we would have been just happy to pay, and again, you'll do a lot for those grandbabies, right? So yeah, we were paying primo prices, but it was worth it to us to be close to those babies. So like I said, this last year when and this has only been about probably 2 months ago, I think. When we came back, we had been up north, and we were coming back from Tennessee. We drove in. I was ahead of my husband, and I was driving our truck. Now, the truck that I was driving, we do have a little slide-in truck camper on it, and we pull a boat. And then he was pulling our fifth wheel, and so with that, we had been told in the past that they would not allow us to even park the truck on our spot with the camper on it. So, there's other places that do that as well. What weren't happy, but weren't completely shocked by it. So, in the past years, we would always come take it off site and put the truck camper in storage, and then we just had the truck there, for the boat. Um, and this year, when I showed up at the gate, I explained to the person at the gate that, hey, we're just going to unload what we have in the truck camper, because we got some heavy things in there, and then we're going to take the camper off site this evening. But we just need to take it on, to our site for just a little bit to get everything unloaded. And we had stuff in the boat and stuff too. And so the staff member told me that Director Barry had passed me on his way leaving the park as I was driving in, and that he had called them back to specifically tell them not to let me in unless I agreed to buy a spot for the truck camper and that there was a 2-night minimum. So my husband wasn't there yet, and I was sort of stuck because I didn't know for sure how long he would be. And I'm like, well, I could be sitting outside the gate, and if it goes past check-in time, I won't get in at all. So I went ahead and booked the spot. And they also told me, they said, now you do not park the truck on your site, even for this, even like though you've bought 2 sites, if you park it over there, there will be trouble. If you park it on the same
there's going to be trouble. Wow.
There's going to be trouble. So we had to carry everything from, and they were probably trying to help us out because they didn't want us to get in trouble. And so we had to carry everything from one campsite to the other. And then, of course, we paid it to put it in storage after. So that was where I started going, wow, he actually like passed me, recognized my vehicle from probably 6 months before and called ahead.
Here's the thing to me, again, because it's not like, y'all, it was your first time camping there. And, I don't know how recent this was, but, especially if they weren't busy anyway, it shouldn't be a big deal. I've done this a lot. I fish a lot. And, I've stayed with friends that have RVs and all that when we go fish tournaments, and it's usually not a big deal. We roll up there with our trucks and boats, unload gear or whatever, and either pay for an extra parking space in the park, or we may drive to a hotel, or whatever the scenario is. And it's usually not that big of a deal. Y'all must have been real troublemakers for him to just single you out.
I mean, he's eyeballing y'all rolling down the road, calling ahead.
That was a shock. I was like, I couldn't even believe that they told me. But yeah, they made it very clear that that's, they said, don't even go there because, you can't even get through the gate. Well, then later in the stay, and this has been just, like I said, a couple of months ago, probably most, our grandkids and our great-grandkids wanted to come and spend the weekend. And so I called to book an additional spot so we could bring the truck camper back, and, part of them could stay in it, because our other, wasn't that big, and we got a lot of grandkids. And so they told me that we could only book 1 spot per family, even though that rule must have changed from 3 weeks before, because they did let me book, the 2-day stay there. And then I asked, okay, can I book it and pay for it then, but put it under my grandson's name, since I'm not allowed to have technically 2 spots. And they said, yeah, we'll let you do that. Well, when the weekend arrived, they told us that our grandson had to be there with the truck camper by 4:45 on Friday, or they would not be admitted to the park. And he's active duty military at Barksdale. He couldn't just take off work. So I explained that. And I said, look, you know us. We're here all the time. You even know them. You have them on the books because they've stayed with us before and gotten visitor passes, right, and blah, blah, blah. And even rented a spot for them before. And so I said, it's going to be really, really hard. He can't get there early. You should have this on file. And the sheriffs normally used to check us in without any problems after hours.
Right.
If you had a reservation. And they said, well, people have taken advantage of that. And so we're not doing that anymore. So then his wife called them before I could get a hold of her to tell her what was going on. And they were just unbelievably rude to her and almost had her in tears, thinking that, they were not even going to be able to stay with us Friday night because he couldn't get there. So he ended up taking a half day off work. About 4 p.m., they got a call, or they called me and said, after he'd already taken off work early, oh, well, we've worked it out and it'll be okay if he gets here a little later than 4:45.
It almost sounds like that you have these meandering rules that they're creating as they go, and I would
Mm-hmm.
almost contend, and this, Charlene, this isn't your words, this is my words, that our elected officials are content with allowing a park, something that's representative of Bossier Parish, to have this system that is fly by wire and changes the rules as you go along to whoever and however they want to allow admittance. But it almost sounds like this is an intent. The intent is to deter people from coming out there. I mean, because if I'm you and I'm having to go through and jump through the hoops to stay at this place with everything you're having to do, at some point I'm going to say, to heck with this, and just throw the towel in and say it's not worth it. I mean, is that maybe where y'all are at?
Yeah, that's where we are, and that's why I'm on here tonight, because I honestly probably, if we weren't at that point, I would have not probably come on again, just because I was afraid to. But I thought, at this point, I have nothing to lose, because it really is not even pleasant anymore. I'd rather have to drive further than to deal with some of it. And yeah, what we would be told every time that we would ask, like I said, the most simple thing, it wouldn't even have to be anything, like, hey, we want to move over there next week to this other spot or something, and not asking for any special accommodation or anything. And they would say, well, I have to talk to the boss. Almost every single call was, I have to talk to the boss. And they would have to call the director to get permission for the simplest of things. And so, yeah, I think that's why the rules changed every time, because, depended on probably what was going on that day. But, and as an example of that, this is kind of the final straw. We were getting ready to leave a few weeks ago, and we needed to get our boat and our truck camper out of storage and rearrange some things, because we were headed west where we are now. And so again, I asked to book the spot across from us in an almost empty campground, so that we could park there and again pack. This time they did not have the only one spot to a family rule. That didn't come up. They told us, okay, you can have the spot. There is a 2-night minimum still. So I agreed, mainly because, I knew my husband was having some health problems. We didn't want to have to be lugging stuff all over the place. So I said, okay, well, it's crazy, but we'll do it, even if it's just going to be there a couple hours to load it. So then they told us, well, you have to be here by 4:45 to check in. And I said, what do you mean? I said, we're already checked in. You took a copy of our driver's license. We've signed papers. We're already checked in. We're just renting an additional spot across the way, so that, because we have to, in order to be able to load the spot. So what do you mean that we have to check in? Absolutely. They said, no, you cannot. If you are here any part past 4:45, you will not be able to have that spot. Well, I work during the day, and so I couldn't do it. So we ended up canceling the reservation. They lost, not only did they lose other revenue, but they just lost that $100 in revenue, because they told me that even though we were already checked in, we had to be there at 4:45 to check in.
That's
And so,
crazy.
oh, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't even.
Well,
makes sense to me as I'm saying it.
and look, I don't own an RV, but I've gone camping a lot, camped with lots of people with RVs, and a lot of campgrounds, you just roll in. If it's after hours, you can go on in,
Yeah.
and they're gonna come by and see you there, and you go pay your deal and register or whatever you need. Especially if you're getting there late at night, that's crazy. I want to address a couple of comments real quick. So, one, a couple of people have asked. Why not just go to another campground? As a matter of fact, Ken Jenkins says Claiborne sounds like a lot better place to camp. Well, we kind of addressed that, Ken, before the show, too. And the truth is, Claiborne is a great state park, and Claiborne is a gorgeous lake, arguably maybe better than Cypress, but that's about an hour from where your grandkids, live and all that. And so they got the travel time and all that. And they wanted to stay at Cypress because your family was right there, grandkids and great grandkids all in Benton. So I just wanted to address that, which also addresses Tim's comment, why not find a new place? You can't really go camp at Bistineau, and you can't really go camp at Caddo. I mean, they're great fishing lakes, but they're not the greatest camping lakes. Cypress is a nice camping lake, with the exception of the park director.
So,
Yeah.
Charlene,
Yeah.
go ahead, Charlene.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I'm just, I've listened to everything you said, and I can't help but draw the conclusion that it was that it's an effort to try to deter. Because I heard you say countless times when you were out there about empty camping spots, lots of empty camping spots. You're coming there, wanting to come, staying there, frequently, spending money, and I can't help but draw the conclusion that it's almost as if it was a conscious decision to try to prevent or deter you from coming there. I mean, is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, it felt that way. I mean, even to the point where, and like I said, there were some people that I think felt very bad for us that were employees there. And so, I would never say anything because, again, for fear of their jobs, but I could tell that they felt for us. And so they would, tell us things like, one day they told us, you may want to take down, because if we're going to be somewhere for a couple of months, I'm going to string some lights. The grandkids love it. We put a few lights around the campfire, turn them off at night, never leave them on to shine in someone else's eyes, in the night sky. But, we had a few decorations out and stuff, and they came by and said that the director felt like that we were getting a little too comfortable there, and that it would look like that we were living there. And I said, it's a campground, people, and there were other people that had lights. And I said, well, what about those people, up the way? They have lights, and I don't have anything more than what they do. So yeah, it did feel personal after a while. And like I said, I just couldn't figure it out. I've never met Director Barry. Never, I have no reason to think that they would just be prejudiced against us. I don't know why they would be, but yeah, it started feeling that way. And it just, like I said, it got progressively more so as time went by.
Well, that's here's the interesting thing is I've heard stories of situations with campers out there, and for that matter, even folks that live around the lake that go out there just to try to enjoy the park. And how rude some of the staff is sometimes, and certainly how rude Robert Berry can be apparently to guests. Now, I got to say, Robert Berry did let our junior fishing league use the boat ramp and the parking area out there at the park, even though they had the park closed. So I'll give him a little credit where it's due. But we've heard too many of these other stories. And look, you folks are from Ohio. It's not like y'all knew Duke and I or some of these other landowners that have been giving the Cypress District grief. Y'all are just paying customers out there trying to enjoy the lake. So that brings
Yeah.
another point. In your stays out there, did y'all ever discuss any of these types of ordeals with any of the other campers out there? Was anybody else seem to be experiencing this that y'all noticed or knew about?
Not, no, we didn't really ever bring it up. Again, I hate to say it, but I was a little paranoid, because I thought, well, if it is somebody that, maybe is on the other side of this thing and it gets back that I, was asking or talking about it, that, that would impact our ability. And as far as, it's a good question as far as why didn't we just go somewhere else? And I do want to kind of address that, we were, again, like you said, part of it was proximity. We had stayed down at Lake Bistano, but most of the campgrounds around there in the state parks have a 2-week limit as well. So they have a 14-day limit. So you're going to go there, you're going to set up for 14 days, then you got to pick up and go to another one. And that's the case in most states that we've been in, and that's why we tend to choose campgrounds where we can stay a little bit longer. It's a lot of work setting up and tearing down and stuff, and so but also there just weren't that many for an area like that. Again, there's a small campground, I think, down at Cross Lake. As you mentioned, you've got Caddo and you've got Bistano, but we love the park. The park is beautiful, and I think it could be even more so. Yeah, so that's why we stay there.
So do you guys plan on coming back anytime soon?
We'll be back
or at
to
least
Bossier.
but not to the park.
Yeah, we'll be back to Bossier. I doubt I would be able to get a reservation at the park after this, but that's okay. I mean, that's a risk that we opted to take. After this last time, we just said we can't. We're not going to go back. Even
what would
we,
what would you say? Because here's the thing, the board out there, Robert Berry is on the board, and essentially there is a board of directors for the Cypress Black Bayou District. One is appointed by our local police jury, which would one is appointed by the school board, and one is appointed
City
by
council.
the city of Benton,
Yeah.
and the city of Bossier City. And I would say all of those entities and all of those elected officials, we're jaded. We're here, and we have been, raising the red flag about the Cypress District for some time. And all these elected officials, on the police jury, school board, city councils, they don't listen to us. You're not from here. You're from outside the area. What would you say to them about what you think the future of the Cypress Park is? And to the taxpayers of Bossier, I mean, what do you think the life expectancy of the Cypress Bayou District Park is at this point? And what recommendations would you have to them to make it be able to last?
I think from my perspective, like I said, it's a beautiful park. You can very much tell that, there's a lot of areas of it that have been shut down for quite some time that have not been maintained, which I think is sad because, there's a lot of potential there. In the summer, I mentioned the park being empty or close to empty. That is not the case in the summer. Let me make it clear. It is usually packed out pretty well in the summer months. And I think, folks still get a lot of enjoyment, I'm sure, out of coming there, bringing their campers for the weekend and that kind of thing. But, what my husband and I kept talking about was just the lost potential. And the fact that, especially now with COVID and everything else, people need, and I was telling you the other day, Duke, I worry as much about the people that live there more so than I do us. We can pick up and go somewhere else, and we're fortunate. But, to be living somewhere like that and have that gem sitting there, and there's so many barricades to its use. whether it's day use or, anything else. And like I said, people need outdoor activities now, because we're told we can't be inside. So, let's be outside. So I just, I think there's a ton of potential, and that community is wonderful. The people that we have met there, by far the majority have been amazing. And it's just sad that someone like this can ruin that whole reputation and that whole sense of community that would be there, I think, otherwise.
Well, I'd just like to offer this too, is that, Robert Berry and his shenanigans out there are not representative of everybody. We've got a viewer that's coming in from YouTube that says, hey, he's got a 36-foot RV spot about 4 miles east of Louisiana Downs, so not far. If y'all need an RV spot, so there are people out there, that would enjoy y'all being able to stay. Lake Claiborne State Park is very nice. Of course, it's an hour drive, from Bossier to there, plus running up to Benton and all that. It's a nice place, but you got a little bit of a drive. And it's just a shame. It's almost as if Robert Berry is trying to run people off from there, and they need all the business they can get. I get their financials on a quarterly basis, and they're not doing so hot. They need paying customers, and it's a shame that you guys have literally thousands of dollars invested in the Cypress Park. And
probably come there more frequently than anyone,
sure.
And you're being run off.
Yeah, and you use the words fear. You're worried about the repercussions from, just speaking out a little bit about your experience there, again, as a paying customer. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I hate that we met because of this situation, but you seem to be a great person. I'm sure your husband is as well. I made fun of you probably being a troublemaker, but I don't get that sense really just talking to you. We all know how Robert Berry is, and most of the time he's not necessarily a pleasant person to be around.
Yeah. Like I said, I've not met him, and I have nothing against him personally. I just felt like that, that seemed to be a driver because of the fact that, like I said, especially after the one incident where she literally said that, he passed me coming in, and I thought, okay, now it's kind of personal.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, Duke,
but
you got
I appreciate you guys. Yeah. No, I appreciate you guys. What you're doing and what you're trying to do, and again, just giving us kind of a voice to at least share. Like I said, it doesn't impact us as much because we are mobile, and folks are right, we can go somewhere else, but for the folks that live there, I just think it's a shame that it can't be better used. So.
I guess the one positive thing from this is that we've got about 70 people, 74, something like that, have been watching. We've been over 60 for a while. I promise you, this is going to get back to Robert Berry. So.
I hope so, because again, I hope it makes positive change.
Yes, I agree.
I hope that the elected officials who appoint these people to the board out there, I hope they are the ones that are taking, your words to heart. And, as someone not from this community, someone from the outside, you have family that lives here, family stationed at Barksdale. That's your why of coming here and staying at our park. And essentially, you're a witness to, attendees to the park are being run off. Essentially, you're being steered away from coming to the park, and it's unsustainable. Maybe that's what is desired, is for the park to fail. I mean, that's kind of what I think is maybe the goal here. Bankrupt it, and maybe we sell off all the lots and make it into a big subdivision, and we lose the gym forever.
It'll be a
shame. There's not too many campgrounds out there that I've run into that would turn down, the revenue just to make a point about, the 445 deadline. Most would, especially these days, they're welcoming, any revenue that you bring them. So. Yeah.
Well, seems to be a different case out there. Okay, Duke. So we ready to
Yes, sir.
Sign off our wonderful guests, and I hope wherever y'all
All
are
right.
staying, y'all have a pleasant time. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlene, for
Merry
visiting with
Christmas.
us.
Merry
Merry
Christmas
Christmas
to
to
y'all
Yeah,
you.
too.
thank you. Merry Christmas, guys.
All right, bye bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Take care.
Okay, so
So, after hearing all that, are you not sold that Robert Berry is intentionally trying to run off all the patrons to the park and sandbag revenue coming into the park?
I hate to say it, maybe he's trying to take my advice of turning it into a subdivision. Honestly, I've said that several times. Honestly, I'd rather we have a nice park, but going to that park appears to be a pain in the rear end. And I want to address a couple of more comments real quick. So Tim Euler says, who does this camp director report to? Well, like Duke said earlier, Robert Berry actually reports to the Bossier Parish Police Jury, and Philip Rogers is the police juror for that district and for the area up there. But they're not going to do anything about it. I mean, he's been sued by the DA and sued by the Attorney General, or, well, that's in progress, and a whole host of other things, and he's still standing. So they're certainly not going to do anything about him turning away a paying customer.
All of your police jurymen have had the opportunity to do something about it. In
Yeah.
fact, Doug Rimmer, look, Doug Rimmer has jumped on both sides of the issue, and they won't take a position. They won't do anything. They say they can't do anything, which is bullcrap. The city of Benton, the city of Bossier City. You can't blame it all on Robert Berry,
Right.
Because the Bossier City Council, the police jury, the City Council of Benton, and the school board, all of them have ownership on what's going to become the failure of the Cypress Black Bayou Park. All of them are going to have to take ownership of it when it all crashes and burns, because Robert Berry is running it in the ground. Now, the question becomes, Rex, why is he trying to run it in the ground, right? Why is he trying to bankrupt it?
I don't know. I mean, it's almost like, there's always a saying, follow the money. Well, the odd thing is he's making $120,000+ a year out there, and I think, what was it, last year? Maybe it was this year with his vacation deal or whatever the heck that scenario was. It was like over $130,000. That's in the auditor's reports, by the way. So there's that. And so you say, well, why would he want to bankrupt that? Because if there's no park director, he can't be paid as the park director. I mean, I guess they could assign him some other position. They can just make it up as they go. But maybe there's some side deal going on. Maybe they are going to try to develop it out there. I don't know.
Well, it just so happens that there's rumors out there that there are some money people around Bossier Parish that want it to fail so that it can be developed for houses and stuff.
And there's lots of developers around that have close ties to the police jury and the Cypress district and all that. Maybe so. I mean, stranger things have happened. Are you trying to say that maybe this was a master plan by Robert Berry all along since 2015, when the dual office holding was first raised, by the way, back in this has been a master plan
I think,
to get rid of the park.
I think, look, you know what Robert Berry is? This is like the drug dealer stuff, okay? Every drug dealer has an enforcer. Robert Berry is nothing more than the enforcer, okay? That's all he is. He's just a tough guy. He's just the guy with the muscle. He's the enforcer. But the question is who is the drug dealer that he works for? Right. That's who you got to ask. That's who's the answer to the question.
Who's the Chicken King from Breaking Bad?
That's right. Because there's no other explanation for running off revenue. There's no other explanation for running up debt on the park. And they can say what they want. It is debt. There's no other explanation for spending countless dollars with lawyer fees to fight the public on accountability of the there's no explanation for it unless you're wanting. Now, why are we so sure about that? Because, Rex, isn't there some renewal going to be coming up in the near future for the park?
Yeah, their millage renewal is coming up. You know, they tried to raise that, basically double it a couple of years ago, but the regular, I hate to say, but I guess the regular millage renewal is coming up here. When is it? 2023, 2024? I forget. So yeah, there's that, and I want to put a couple of comments up real quick. Let's see. Kevin Rigsby says they stand to make millions selling off lots to build houses. Then they shut down the public launches. Let's see.
Jim Anderson made a good post. He did it to the ambulance board. Yes, Jim Anderson, you're right, and we know all of the dirty details on that deal.
Really? Yeah. There. Okay. That one went right by me. Good catch there, Mr. Lowry.
And a lot of people probably don't realize all that history. Robert Berry, arguably, he made Dukesy Scott. This reaches out to Halton and the Highway 80 district and all of that. I mean, he had a hand in making Dukesy Scott into a bad guy. And the police jury, I think Doug Rimmer had a hand in it, in making Dukesy Scott into a bad guy.
Yeah, we went back through some of those records, and I believe you are correct. A lot of that was kind of before my time around Bossier, but yeah, we need to dig back into that one day. Your wife says at 6 figures, he should work as long as it takes, referring to past the stupid 445 or whatever it is rule.
I don't know. It seems like we got an anonymous email, something though, that said that Robert Berry was trying to tap into some other 6-figure resource somewhere else. Maybe he was trying to tap out of there and get somewhere else. But it's time that we've done flogged that dead horse, as Foster Campbell would say in Bossier
We've spent
City.
an hour on this, like Ken Jenkins says, on this incestuous ordeal going on out there at Cypress.
And that's the crazy thing. I mean, we appreciate everybody that's watching. I mean, 70 plus something people that's been paying attention to the Cypress district. We're glad you are all tuned in because you all pay taxes on it. It's your money that's being wasted out there and pissed away. And if it all comes down to they sell it all for lots, all your tax dollars that have been going to it, I mean, they just robbed you.
Yeah.
So your police juryman, your city councilman, your school board member, all of them, you need to be bending their ear to let them know that you expect something to change with the expenditure of your tax dollars at the Cypress district. That's your backup water supply for the city of Bossier. Good grief.
Yeah, I'm not even going to go back down the whole water pathway right now.
Plain dealing.
Yeah, let's move on. Yeah, we'll jump down to plain dealing, then we'll come back to Brian Hammond's a little bit of video from the city council meeting, and we'll talk about the Linton Road and Bridge. So, all right. So, what's the deal with plain dealing? We hadn't heard anything negative about plain dealing really in quite a while.
Well, we haven't followed plain dealing. We haven't paid a whole lot of attention. We were heavily involved in plain dealing earlier in the year, and they, their mayor resigned. They had a special election for their new mayor. A new mayor was elected. We hadn't went down that rabbit hole, but back when we were kind of chasing all that stuff, the city of plain dealing, there was some discussion. Do you remember scab eaters? You remember that?
Yes, I do remember scab eaters. How could we forget that?
I'm so glad I didn't prompt you to bring that video up because I really didn't want to watch that again.
No, and that made a lot of folks in plain dealing upset too, by the way.
It did. It wound some folks up. So plain dealing, you got a fire district out there, and if you pull the police jury was actually talking about this. And
yeah, they were.
At the 22, 25, 21 mark, I think I got it marked in there.
Yes.
Right out of the gate, they start talking about this. And I really don't completely understand it, but if you're a part of plain dealing, you probably want to pay attention close here because I think ultimately you may end up having to pay more taxes, and then you're going to have to vote. If you go along with this, you're going to automatically pay more taxes, and then you're going to have to vote for another tax increase potentially right after that, if I understood this correctly. So roll with it.
All right, here we go.
To hear any and all objections to the enlargement of Fire Protection District Number 7 of the Parish of Bossier, State of Louisiana, to the boundaries thereof, and to the inclusion of the property proposed to be included in the district, and after disposing of all objections, if there be any, the police jury shall, if it determines to do so, adopt a resolution enlarging the district and fixing the boundaries thereof, and providing for other matters in connection therewith.
Motion by Mr. Jordan, second by Mr. Brotherton. Go ahead.
Are they gonna have to vote, get a petition bill like we did in District 6, or will they just,
They vote, the towns vote.
the town's gonna, and the Fire District 7 district will vote with the town? I mean, it affects Fire District 7 as much as it does the town.
Well,
How will they hold the election? All of them?
Now, say that again.
Okay, at Fire District 7, they're doing this to incorporate the town into Fire District 7.
That's right.
Who votes? Does Fire District 7 have an election, or?
So there'll be basically two elections that are important here, because we got a tax that's set for renewal, I believe, in about a few months, right? And then the town has to come in. So the town has to vote and the district has to vote. And so it's going to be we're not certain. Bill and I have been working on this for a while. We're not
Well, I
certain.
just remember when we did Fire District 6 into Fire District 1, and we had to do a petition drive and all that stuff before they could hold the election.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So the town has to call for an election. We have to call for election for the district. At this point, the only people that seem focused on it are the administrators in plain dealing, because there doesn't seem to be a groundswell of need. So I'm going to be surprised if they vote to tax themselves for it. But, you know,
Okay.
All right, I'll pause.
We can stop there. So, bottom line, and I think Patrick summed it up well. I mean, the town of Plain Dealing has a pretty good gig going. I mean, they've got fire coverage.
Right.
Why would they vote to, raise their taxes to include themselves in Fire District 7 when they've got fire coverage already? Now, you remember at that council meeting that we went to up there, they were kicking around the idea of having their own fire department, but they also said, look, we can't have a fire department for what we're able to pay for, the fire protection that we have right now. I mean, there's no way we could afford to do it for the same money. So why would we change anything?
Yeah, and well, like Patrick Jackson said, I mean, they might do it, but I can't see them voting themselves a tax increase as well, And that's kind of interesting that the question was being asked, would that entire fire district have to vote to incorporate plain dealing? Not really sure how all that works.
Yeah, well, Plain Dealing and Fire District 7, y'all got some stuff on the horizon. You might ought to start paying attention, and it's probably going to end up in increased taxes. So, I don't know whether that's going to be good or bad. Hadn't analyzed it completely, but bringing it to your attention, you might ought to, kind of start weighing in on that.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll keep an eye out on that and kind of maybe we got a couple of people we can reach out to in plain dealing and see if the average plain dealing folks up there are aware of what's going on.
Yeah, so Rex, at the police jury meeting, I mean, it was a pretty interesting meeting as we were going through the timestamps. As you know, Bill Altimus was retiring, and in 5304, he kind of gave his last report, I think, to the police jury, and everybody was kind of saying their goodbyes and all this stuff. And there was some interesting comments and some takeaways. I'm not going to take anything away from Bill Altimus as he's walking out the door, but we drew some conclusions, I think, from this exit.
All right, well, let's hit play and see what that might have been.
Not too late to change your mind now. We hadn't confirmed Butch yet.
Got a little fun going.
We got to vote on Butch on the first. Now you got until the first.
You hear that?
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. So they've already got a replacement for Bill Altimus.
I mean, yeah, we got to confirm Butch on the first. I mean, they may have done it. They probably did, but I might have wanted to apply for that job. I'm thinking I was interested in that job, Rex. I think I could be a good parish administrator.
Well, I guess with that position, they would have to advertise that. I'd have to go back and look at the laws on that to see for sure, but I would assume they would need to advertise that in the publication of a record for the police jury. Is that maybe the Bossier Press Tribune or whatever? Maybe
It might be, and admittedly, I haven't looked, and it may even be in there. But I'm just thinking, I ain't heard nothing about it, but it almost seems like it's an afterthought, even if they did publish it. That Butch is and I ain't taking nothing away from Butch.
yeah.
I'm just saying. Don't even give her.
you know what I'm about to do. I'm about to
Yeah,
click it.
don't even do it. Don't even do it.
I can't stand it. Your wife says you wouldn't have as much free time at that job. You're right, Kara. All that free time he spends doing Bossier Watch stuff.
Yeah. Y'all get your shots in while you can. But I'm just saying, they already got their minds made up on Butch. I mean, even if anybody I'm certainly not qualified, but if somebody was qualified, I mean, why would you even bother, trying to submit your name? Because the decision's already been made. And again, I'm not taking nothing away from Butch, but wait a minute, aren't we supposed to advertise for these things and give fair consideration to all candidates?
Yeah, well, yeah, in theory. So I guess we need to dig a little. Where is Barry Butler when we need him, Mister Former Police Juryman?
Or is this one of those executive services thing where we don't take bids, we don't shop this around, as David Montgomery would say.
Hey, you know what? I want to circle back around a little bit. So hold on a second. This was an interesting comment from Kevin Rigsby, and I didn't see it before we stopped talking about the plain dealing deal. So bear with me just a second here. Kevin Rigsby says, but the fire protection they're getting now is not being paid for by them. Not fair they get service from others' taxes. They deserve to pay their fair share. Well, they're in Bossier Parish, right?
Yeah, no, look, I respect Kevin. Kevin knows he's on top of these things, and he's probably correct. But I remember when you and I were at that council meeting, and we were kind of going over. I remember the commentary, and there was some discussion. You and I didn't participate, but we were listening. And I remember them talking about that they paid some fee, for coverage or whatever. And they had some deliberation about the monetary value of the fee that they paid. Right. That I remember that.
Yeah,
that was at that meeting we recorded.
Yeah, and we've posted that meeting months and months. Well, heck, it was probably nearly a year ago now, I guess. But yeah, Kevin, if we're remembering correctly, they're not getting the fire protection completely free. I think the town of Plain Dealing is paying the fire district whatever the amount is, which of course would come out of the taxes charged to the Plain Dealing residents. So I don't think they're getting it for free. But we'd have to go back and look through that. Okay, sorry about that. I just want to circle back because I didn't see that comment before we moved on to the Butch Ford situation.
Well, we're past Butch Ford. I mean, Linton Road Bridge. So the police jury's got a report from the parish engineer on the Linton Road Bridge. And 54-15-22, I think you ought to just roll with it.
All right, let's see. 54-15, where are we at? 15-22, click. Okay, here we go.
It's on track. I did talk to the state yesterday, and here's a couple of pictures of the Linton Road Bridge over Black Bayou. They have constructed all the retaining wall on the opposite side here, and then here you can see them driving some piling here. I got the updated schedule from them. They show a completion date of June 22nd right now. They're a little behind schedule. Of next year, right? Of next year, 2022. And they
did you hear that?
Yeah, he said, what was that? Let me pause it here. He said June 22nd is supposed to be the completion date.
Now, that's important. June 22nd. They're a little behind schedule. So I don't know if we should jump ahead. Let's go to some where is it at? We got it in our cut folder. We didn't put cuts in the notes, but we can go ahead and get there.
Okay, so let's see. Yeah, just tell me which cut you want to go to.
I think this is a good point. So if everybody watching, and if there's any of you that are interested in the Linton Road Bridge project, so there's been a lot of things been said and information put out there. Well, we've gotten a lot of information, that we've been working on for a little while to get. The state was kind of dragging this out. You got to understand the Linton Road Bridge project is a parish, state, with federal funding project. So you've got a lot of people with a lot of hands in this deal and a lot of hoops to jump through. So I say let's just go through the cuts from top to bottom and let's jump through them one at a time.
Okay, so
Go to the first one.
Yeah, and the first one's going to be the contract. So help me keep track of where we're at. Correct?
Yeah, I don't remember the order that you got. I've got the Linton Road Bridge project lake closure. And we're going to give some credit to the police jury. We're going to give some credit to the Cypress district. And we're going to show y'all some of the things that they deserve credit for and some of the other. But anyway, here's the contract.
Yeah, so I've got the contract pulled up first, and so let me roll all the way to the top. And folks, we'll probably publish this on Bossier Watch, as a standalone post after the show or tomorrow or whatever. Okay, so I've got the contract pulled up, so you'll have to kind of guide me through which one we want to look through and which emails.
Yeah, so the point, and if you're Bossier City and you care about Shed Road and the Walter O. Bigby Carriageway project, there's some distinctions and comparisons here that we want to make. So if you look right here in contract documents in Part C, and we've got it highlighted right there, Louisiana Standard Specifications for Roads and Bridges 2016 edition, hereinafter referred to as 2016 Standard Specs. Right. Now, you guys may remember in one of our last shows when we posted up the contract as given to us by the city attorney, and where it pointed out that the guiding documents or the contract were actually the Louisiana Standard Specs for Road and Bridges 2016 edition. Here again, you see it in a parish state contract for the Linton Road Bridge, the same thing for the Walter O. Bigby Carriageway project.
Yeah, and that's a nice, real thin, easy to read book too, by the way. Hey, let's pause right there for a second. So Barry Butler's watching now. He says, "What's up, Barry? Is Bill Altimus's position supposed to be advertised?" David Jones has said, "Not by law, same as city administrator up to the appointing authority." So Barry, if you I guess you're still watching or whatever, if you've got any insight into the parish engineer position, is that supposed to be advertised? Or as David said, is it, just an appointed position? Okay, so circling back to here. We see again that even on the Linton Road Bridge, the standard specifications, the 2016 edition, is referred to again. That's kind of like the Bible for these type of contracts.
Exactly. So you drop on down to page 3, and we're going to kind of try to run through this pretty quick. Right. And you see here the contract pricing, $4,907,521. And I would point out that originally this project was around $4 million even, but it jumped almost to $5 million even. Now we're not going to cover why exactly that happened. We'll catch up on that in a future show because there were some documents that we didn't get from the state, but we will be getting them here in the future. But just below that highlighted portion and right down there, contract time.
Yes.
That's what we want to focus on. So everybody that crosses the Linton Road Bridge and all of you folks wondering about when it should be completed, when it should have been completed, time and all that, there it is in black and white, 345 calendar days.
Okay, and I'm no expert, obviously, at all on these types of construction projects, but I'm assuming calendar days means literally, count them out on the calendar. There's also a deal called work days that we'll have to dig into and figure out as well.
Well, so you and I mean, we had to go back a little bit and we had to try to determine on when exactly the project started. Now, what we can tell you for sure is by emails, we can confirm that April 20th. And in fact, in one of our shows, we did a video and we showed the video of them actually closing the road that day.
Right.
But in the emails, we'll go off of the emails that they said April 20th, 2021, 8 a.m. close, bridge start. That was the day they were closing it. But, we also gleaned that the actual notice to proceed letter was issued in March, and then they had a 30-day procurement period, something along there. But anyway, March. So based off of a 345 calendar day, contract, in theory, we should be looking at a completion date here of March of 2022.
Yeah, I mean, at 345 calendar days is less than a year. So that's, what we should be looking at.
Now, what did we just hear just again from, the parish engineer about completion? Didn't he just say, wasn't he talking like June?
I think he said June something. I was trying to write it down. June the 20th, June 22nd. I don't know, somewhere in there. Next summer. Right?
No. This summer.
Oh, I'm sorry. This summer. Whoops. Yeah, I got it backwards. I'm sorry. I've lost a year somehow.
Yeah. June or July of this year is what he was talking about. So, the notice to proceed was in March. 345-day calendar. That would be March of 2022. But, at that point, if they hadn't completed it, then you would have what would be called liquidated damages. So that every day afterwards, and there's this calculation that the state has in this book that guides everything, that if they don't have it completed, that, there would be a penalty every day for the days it wasn't, unless DOTD, the state, approved some extensions. Now, I don't know of any approved extensions at this point, but what I will tell you is that, and we'll get to it in this police jury meeting, they talk about that there's all these rumors going around.
Rumors. Oh, they had lost funding or something. Isn't that one of them or something like that?
That was one of them. And then we had some rumors about concrete and all of that. Now, I think you and I pointed out the concrete rumors. Now, as far as the funding rumors, I don't know anything about that one. But so to get to that point, let's see here. Let's jump to the 107.58 mark.
107.58. Okay, give me just a second here. Let me swap screens. And let me roll down here. Do 107.58. There we go. All right, here we go.
Mr. Rogers.
Reports, please.
Yes.
I want to thank Eric for calling the state and getting an official, hopefully, end date to the Linton Road Bridge. That affects everybody in District 3.
Okay.
The bridge is actually not in District 3, but it affects a lot. So I appreciate it. Everybody tells me it's going to be done in like 2026 and all that. So I'm glad to hear it's projected.
I heard a rumor, someone the other day asking if they pulled the funding.
Yeah, we run out of money for it. There's a lot of things, so I appreciate that.
You gotta remember now, Butch trained him.
You hear that? Stop it right there. You hear that? There's all these rumors out there, pulled funding and all this stuff. And I'm sure our stuff about the contract, about the concrete and the fly ash and all that, those are just rumors, I mean, there's no validity.
It's internet,
that, right?
social media stuff.
Internet, social media stuff, there's no validity to that. So why don't we go to Builder Supply Material? I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth one down.
Okay, hold on just a second. Fifth
cut.
Okay. Well,
yeah, I'm sorry. I could have labeled these a little better, couldn't I?
Yeah. That's you killing me, Smalls. All right, so give me a second here. Yeah, the Builder Supply fly ash Okay. Give me a second. I'll
Well,
flip
you
us
can do
back
that
over.
one or the one right before it, either one.
All right. Let's see. Well, material shortages. Okay.
Supply material shortage.
Yeah. Here we go. Okay. So here we go. We're on page 1 of 2.
Scroll down to the bottom because that's the start, the first email, and
Okay.
you see right there, Mr. Evans D. Marcion, I can't pronounce his name. Please see
Yeah.
attached letter from our concrete supplier for this project, Builder Supply. It is my understanding builders will not be able to provide concrete until the issue is resolved. If additional information is required, do not hesitate to contact us.
So there was some kind of concrete issue.
There was a concrete issue. And then if you go to that next cut, you'll get, that was the notice that the contractor was sending to the state saying, hey, we got a problem. The concrete supplier is not going to be able to supply us concrete.
Yeah, so there is a legitimate issue there. And they say here, reading from this email, I found out, this is from Jeffrey Allen, District 4 Construction Coordinator with the Louisiana DOTD. Anyway, he says, I found out last week that Builder Supply is running out of fly ash Class F that is on their mix design. From what I've been told from Builder Supply is that they only have enough to last sometime this week. And this email was back in August the 9th of 2021.
That's right. So there's no rumors about that there was a problem with supplies and concrete and fly ash. I mean, and again, I think didn't we talk about this in the previous show that
Yes.
if there's mixes, there's approved mixes, and it's almost like a recipe. When you mix fly ash into concrete, it'll make it get harder, and if you have one of the components, meaning like the fly ash, that you don't have supplies to do it, you have to change to a different recipe, and that recipe has to be approved because you've got to have the concrete hard enough and meets all of the prereqs for a bid, and I mean for a job. And why does all of that play? Well, if you start having shortages in the middle of pouring a cast in place job, whereas if this job would have been precast, there wouldn't have been an issue about worrying about whether concrete supplies would have been available at the time or not. If it was precast, it was poured in a yard and would sit there and wait until it was ready to be used at the location. But no,
Right.
for some reason we did cast in place, and it's yet to be determined whether or not that was a decision by the state or whether that was a decision by the parish. We'll see, but we're going to get the answer to that.
Yeah, and maybe some of our friends out there, people watching who are, maybe in the construction business and all this, maybe give us some feedback on, on the differences in that. And interesting here, I highlighted this one more sentence says, I'm waiting for builders to let me know when they are ready for trial batches. Once that happens, it will take up to 28 days to approve them, depending on the breaks and surface resistivity. So, yeah, running out of materials can seriously delay these types of projects.
Now, I don't think all that is rumors.
It's pretty much literally black and white with a little yellow mixed in, or chartreuse.
Yeah, to say the least. So, but while we're talking about fly ash, jump back to that video and let's go to the 5713 mark. So if you live in Benton and you travel across the Linton, or travel up and down Linton Road, and so if you've lived there for some time, if you remember not too many years ago, we had a delay before and had to divert around to Benton, where they had closed Linton Road down, where they resurfaced and redid it. I can't remember exactly how many years ago, but y'all may remember that. But a great question was asked by one of the police jurymen here, and this question has more resonance, not just for North Bossier and for Linton Road, but across the parish of Bossier as a whole. And after we play it, I'm gonna make the point to people: if you live in South Bossier, if you live in Halton, anywhere in Bossier Parish, this question applies to you as well too. So roll with it.
All right, here we go.
So anyway,
Eric, back on the Linton Road, where that road failed, we did that road about 10 years ago, and it just completely fell apart. What did we find out when they reworked? Did we just not have good soil cement, or what happened?
Which road are you referring to? Could you mean Linton Road between the two bridges?
Between Parks Road, I guess it's where we replaced it in,
Two bridges.
between the two bridges.
Okay, so I don't know what's going on. We took soil borings, and then there's some. There's soil cement
you hear-
there.
Yeah.
just
I
think
don't know what
a
happened.
A lot of it was wet, and there's
I
some.
realized
fat-
it was winter time, we opened the road back up, but that road failed within a couple of years.
Well, it has a tremendous amount of traffic, and it's got some fat clay underneath it. But we've gone in while there's no traffic and dug.
Well,
out all
wait a
the
minute.
spots, so-
You can stop it. Did you hear the answer? Why? Did you hear an answer as to why?
It might have been this. I don't really know. I'm just a parish engineer. Who knows? Just cost us a few million bucks or
We
whatever.
took soil samples, but we don't know. There was soil cement there, but that's all you got. There was soil cement there. Okay. For you non-contractors, here's what you need to know. So when they make a road, underneath the asphalt or the concrete, in the dirt and all that, so you've got what's called soil cement. It's basically soil cement, same as the hard concrete, but they take a pneumatic truck and they got a spreader bar on the back, and they blow it out the back into the soil, and then they have this big huge disc that comes along, and it stirs all this soil cement up into the soil, and it stiffens the soil and makes it like hard as a rock, so that when they come back and then that they put the concrete or the asphalt across on the top of it, it won't fall apart. But so, like, one of the dirty little secrets in construction business is that if you don't, if you need to cut a corner or you want to make enough money, you don't quite put the full quantity of the soil cement in there, and you cut a little bit of corners. But somebody has to blink their eye or turn their head for them kinds of things to happen. And I'm not saying that's what happened here. But what I am telling you is I've heard rumors that there's been other roads across Bossier Parish that have had core samples taken, and a determination was made that there wasn't, on other projects, that there wasn't enough soil cement actually, on the ground. I don't know. But the question here, I can tell you the question here wasn't answered. I mean, when that project was done, I don't think this engineer was with the parish, but the question becomes, if there's other roads in Bossier Parish that are falling apart, from construction projects that didn't have an adequate amount of soil cement, I really want to know, was that the case with Linton Road here? Did it not have enough soil? What was the quantity of soil cement that was there?
Yeah, something caused it. And like you said, there's a lot of traffic on that road. Well, there's a lot of traffic on a lot of roads. Y'all are supposed to calculate that out and build the roads accordingly.
That's exactly right. The police juryman asked a valid question. Why did it fall apart? And he didn't get an answer.
Yeah, he didn't get an answer. Before I share this out, I'm going to send some information over to you. All right, so go ahead, Duke, while I'm trying to get this sent over to you.
Well, we're at the stopping point on the police jury, I think, unless we want to hit some more of these emails and stuff from the police jury and the state. I would point out the very last cut in the list of cuts. Actually, the Cypress district was kind of standing up for, the people of North Bossier. So, we did beat down on the Cypress district quite a bit tonight, but there is an email chain where the Cypress district, I would argue, was looking out for the best interests of the people around Cypress Lake.
Yeah, and let's see. Let me see if I can find. We got so many of
I think
these.
it was the last one. And to cut to the chase, basically, what happened was you had the contractor in the state was talking about was talking about wanting to draw the lake down by 26 feet. Now, if
Yeah.
you live up here on the lake and you were going to draw Black Bayou down by 26 feet, I mean, if you live up here and you look out there at that water, basically what you're going to be talking about is a mud pit out there. There wasn't going to be anything.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be
And
drawing it down into the original creek bed or whatever at 26 feet.
yeah, I mean, fortunately, I will give credit to the Cypress district. They basically said, not no, but hell no.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
good
that
for
that
them
wasn't
on that.
happening.
Yeah.
Mel Allen, in which Mel's not there anymore, but Mel, to his credit, wrote a pretty good stinging email to him and it's like, no, that dog ain't gonna hunt. And they pulled in, wildlife and fisheries on it, and they ganged up on it, and it didn't happen. Um,
Yeah. All right. And then I don't know if you want to go into this one. Yeah, here's the one from Mel Allen as far as the putting the buoys around and markers around to keep the boat traffic going. We've got those emails. We'll be glad to publish those if somebody wants to take a look at them.
Hey, and yeah, I want to know. I already know the answer, but I want to hear it from somebody else.
Oh, you talking about it on that message I just sent you, or which one?
Yeah, as we
Yeah.
speak, getting anonymous information.
Yeah, and that one was actually coming in from YouTube, by the way. So yeah, we got the message. I'm not going to say who it is at this point or whatever, but we're digging more into that situation and whether somebody is a liar or not. Okay. All right. So what's next? I've kind of got lost in the messages.
Well, we in what I would say is in all of these emails, I mean, I don't remember how many total emails and total documents that we got regarding the Linton Road project. I mean, it was a ton. We still hadn't poured through all of it, but what I would argue is that it looked like the parish was really working on behalf of the citizens of Bossier or Bossier Parish to try to get this thing moved fast and get it
Right.
done as speedily. They're even, we saw emails.
Yeah,
They were trying to
240
have it.
days or something.
Yeah, well, the parish engineers were estimating that there should be able to be a completion date of 249 days, but I think that was before there was the addition of these extra guardrails and some changes, and that gets back into the $4 million versus the $5 million range. But we still don't have the notes, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it because we're not hiding anything.
Right.
If they want to prevent it, we're going to fight to get them. If they want to prevent us from getting them, that's on them. I don't think they can change it, but we were not given the planned in hand meeting notes that took place. And who made the determination that changed it from 4 million to basically 5 million, and who made the decision of cast in place versus precast? Those are significant questions that are still unresolved, and we're going to get to the bottom of them. It's just going to take a little bit more time.
Take a little bit.
But Rex, there's a contrast to all of these documents and everything that we see with the parish on this bridge project and what we have seen with Bossier City and the Walter O. Bigby carriageway. The engineer, love him or hate him, Butch Ford and Hudson up here in Benton, I mean, in all the emails you could see, they were on top of the permits,
Yes.
for getting on property and easements and all that stuff. The engineers was on top of it.
Yeah, the engineers were.
The engineers were on top of it. Obviously, it was their responsibility. They were taking hold of it. Unlike in Bossier City, we throw the design people under the bus. Oh, wait a minute. Nope, it wasn't their responsibility. It was somebody else's. But Bossier City, we don't know whose responsibility is.
Yeah, and the design guys brought their lawyer to the city council meeting, so we're going to be really, really nice to them now. We're just going to pretend like we never called a special meeting to throw them under the bus.
Yeah, in Bossier City, nobody takes responsibility. Not the mayor, not the council, not the Zamboni driver, not the engineer. Nobody has responsibility in Bossier City.
Yeah, nobody. Okay.
But you know who ends up owning it? The taxpayers of Bossier City, because you lost a road.
Yeah.
You lost
Well,
Shed Road because of the jack wagons down there and I'm just going to, close your ears, kids. They got their head up their ass down there. And I'm going to jump ahead, Rex, because I'm pissed.
go
I'm
right
pissed.
ahead.
The
Make
council
believe.
meeting today. The council meeting today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm jumping ahead.
No,
I got to back off.
It's
I got
okay.
I got to take a breath. I got to calm down a little bit because I was fixing. I'm telling people to put their hands over their ears and shut it down because I was fixing to get bad.
Well, and
better-
rightfully so, because, well, maybe I'll be jumping ahead a little bit too, but there was a particular question that needed to be asked today at the city council meeting that could have been brought up very easily. And it wasn't. Now, speaking of that city council meeting, did you realize or remember that we had a new city councilman sworn in?
I got to take a deep breath.
Woosah.
Got to take a deep breath. Yeah, I seen at the Bossier City Council meeting today, Brian Hammonds, the
Yes.
one-man wrecking crew, got sworn in.
Yes, he did.
actually-
Well, look, there he is, getting sworn in.
I actually didn't watch. I did think it was. Why did he not get Phyllis to swear him in? Why did he had to bring a damn judge? He had a judge sitting over there in the little lawyers, a Zamboni driver.
Ex judge. But and speaking of that judge, that's
if
Judge
you
Mike
can drive
Craig.
a Zamboni, I'm sorry, you got ranked to a guy wearing a black robe from Benton. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no kidding. Speaking of the black robe from Benton, though, I wanted you to hear, and everybody else, if you haven't watched the city council meeting yet, which of course they've got it on YouTube, I want you to hear what Judge Mike Craig says. Listen to this.
Excuse me. Before I do this, I know my job description is not to make any comments, but I can't help not making a couple of comments. First of all, I've known Brian since he was a very, very, very young man, and I grew up with his family and his older brother, and I can't sit here and give you a warranty to the citizens of Bossier City that Brian will get it right every time, but I can guarantee you that there will not be another council member or another participant that knows and loves this city as much as he does. And for that reason alone, I think that he's going to make a great councilman and justifies his election. So, Brian, if you will, place your hand on the Bible.
All right, so I'll spare y'all the swearing in. Brian did a good job, doing the swearing in ceremony and all that, but I just thought, kind of an interesting comment there.
Yeah, it was interesting. He added a little more into it, which goes to my question: is why would you not want the Zamboni driver? If I'm going to come in there with fire and brimstone, I'm thinking I'm going to make the Zamboni driver swear me in. By gosh, whether he likes it or not.
Somehow I get the feeling. Of course, we'll see. As we know, Tommy's been kind of a little bit of a disappointment as mayor so far. We'll see what Like I said, I hope Brian goes in there like a bull in a china closet and just kind of stirs it up a little bit. And I want to show this because he did jack up his first vote, by the way. So let's see what happened there. I don't even remember what it was about, really. It doesn't really matter, but here we go. This was shortly after he, sat down.
Mr. Hammonds,
Yeah, I hit the wrong button. I'm sorry, I've already messed up.
are you,
I'm for it.
you for it? Okay. Motion carries.
Record time. He literally sat down, they had the vote, and bam, he already jacked up the first one. Good job there, Brian.
Oh, that's priceless.
Yeah. But
well, I would argue that a little humor is probably in line for down there.
I think so. I agree with you 100%. I think it's going to be an interesting contrast because Chris Smith likes to ask questions. Chris is a little more soft-spoken, and has kind of got the nice guy, and Chris is a nice guy. I don't mean that, in a bad way, going on. I think Brian, might be the opposite of that. So it's kind of nice that they're one's on one side and one's on the other, just to kind of keep things mixed up a little bit. Let's listen to Brian's first question, and this was about a change order increase of $50,000 to the Swan Lake ball field restrooms and sewage issue. So let's see how he handles that.
Yeah, Mr. President, I had one question on this.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, just being in the construction business. Was this a change order by the city, or was this a change order coming from the contractor?
And of course, here comes Ben Ruttenbuck.
Oh,
A little
Redbud.
of both.
Yeah.
Brian, there was
All right,
about-
so I'll spare y'all the boring stuff, since David Jones was complaining about us going through the contract a little while ago in the comments. I'll spare y'all listening to Ben, but Ben goes through and kind of addresses the question.
Well, I'm going to tell you though that is a good question on the change orders. Digging into the nitty gritty details, that's what is expected of your elected officials. I mean,
it's actually a solid, good first question right out of the gate.
So that's amazing. He asked a detailed question about something pertaining to a contract and some work that's going on. I'm impressed.
Yeah, but wait, there's more. So his second question was about chlorine. There was a vote on a deal to basically have to change out the chlorine scrubbers because they last about 10 years, according to Ben. And they're, at their life expectancy, and they didn't completely pass their last inspection and test, so they're having to allocate a little bit of money to do that. So this is Brian asking about the chlorine. So here we go. And this also, we did get a question through Bossier Watch about a high chlorine smell. I think it was around the Stonebridge subdivision as well. So this actually may address that question that we got. It was several days ago. But anyway, so here we go. Here's Brian asking about chlorine.
Yeah, I've got one. Will this help what we're replacing here, Mr. Rauschenbach? The chlorine, the strong chlorine smell that we're getting in the water down in South Bossier?
Well, you get it everywhere, not just in South Bossier.
I thought y'all
no.
were just doing it to us. I'm just.
Yeah, and Ashley Lee says it's horrible in Shady Grove.
I love that. Did you hear what he said? I thought y'all were just doing it to us.
Yeah.
So you're probably experiencing that, as is everybody, that's getting water. This is specific to our chlorine systems at the water plant.
Okay.
So it's gaseous chlorine. If we have a leak, we have to have a facility that's safe for our operators to go in, and they use a media that scrubs that gas when we have a leak. The media is a little over 10 years old now. We have it tested annually, and those tests came back.
Okay, enough of
enough of that. But anyway, so he's asking about, we got an answer to the chlorine smell.
It just occurred to me. Was Zamboni driver number 2, was he there, the king? Was he even at the meeting?
Now that you say that, let's see if we can find a shot. Oh, yeah, he's slumped over taking a nap. Maybe he's learning to read contracts.
I mean, dadgum. I mean, this guy's on a roll. He's not even on the radar.
Yeah. Oh, hold on a minute. Let's go. But wait, there's more to the third question. This was a little bit of a softball question, I'll admit. It's not the question you and I thought that should be asked, and still should be asked, by the way. But let's listen to his third question.
From that on the streets and sidewalks, I mean, are we seeing stuff citywide from the hard freeze that we had that really messed any roads?
A little bit. And Wade would be able to tell better on that. I can tell you from a water standpoint, when you look at the number of repairs and call-outs that we had on the water system, more than double last year. When I say more than double, we closed out about, if a given year has 2,080 hours of time, working hours of time, we closed 4 work orders an hour in that time, which is way more than we have in the past. So I suspect.
So I'm going to stop it there. Just kind of remember what he just spouted off there, Mr. Lowry.
Oh, you better believe I took some notes right there.
I thought you would
I
find that interesting.
I sure enough did. And Zamboni driver number one, I caught that too. I
Mm-hmm.
did. Anyway, so, well, I gotta ask, did anybody in Bossier City have a spine to ask Ben Ruttenbuck about $10 million? I didn't get to watch the video, so please
No.
enlighten me. Did anybody have a spine to ask Ben Ruttenbuck about $10 million?
Well,
8 digits.
I listened to the whole meeting, and no, it was the perfect opportunity because he gave an engineer's report. I mean, any of the city councilmen could easily segued into that question about how he pulled 8 figures out of his rear end when the contract doesn't mention that in any shape, form, or fashion. But no, none of our city councilmen did. And now we have crickets. Ashley Lee, you are correct. Someone needs to be reading the contracts, but apparently they're not. Oh, looks like we lost Mr. Lowry, so we'll have to see if he dials back in. So we're getting close to the end of it right now, but what we were talking about was whether anybody had asked Ruttenbuck whether or not, or how he justified the 8-figure number that he somehow magically came up with. All right, so let me double check here and see if we are still online with Bossier Watch, because I've lost Duke. So let me make sure it's not me going offline. Let's see here. Okay, let's see. Nope, I'm still online. Let me get over here to Bossier Watch, folks. Just bear with me a second. Somebody comment if y'all can still hear me. Let me make sure that it wasn't me that went offline. Yep, okay, so good. I'm still live. All right, anyway, so continuing on. Hopefully Duke will come back here in a second. Thanks, Barry, for letting me know that we're still good as far as being online. Let's see. So Ashley Lee says, so I have to ask this, is Brian pronouncing Ben's last name correctly? I believe he was. Jimmy Richardson says Duke had to get off camera and calm down. Yeah. All right. So anyway, the main thing was, as we kind of close this up a little bit, is nobody asked Ben where he came up with that 8-figure number. How did he calculate $10 million for a penalty for delaying the contract if they don't close Shed Road and all that? Again, as we showed, I think it was last week or week before, that's nowhere in the contract at all. So, I wish one of our city councilmen asked Brian, if you're having to watch or somebody's watching for you or whatever, we need to know, or we would like for one of our councilmen to ask Ben Ruttenbuck where he came up with those 8 figures. Pointed out in the contract. We would like to know, or did he just pull that out of his rear end with the shenanigans? So, folks, I'm ad-libbing here for a second. Let me see if I can get Duke back online. Let's see. Still, give me just a second, and then we'll go ahead and start wrapping this up. So hold on. Let me call him and see where he is. We're switching to another piece of technology. Okay. All right. So, all right. Well, I'll go ahead and wrap the show up because that was pretty much all of it anyway. All right. You're not going to be able to get back online. All right. Yeah, we'll just have to, we'll figure out how to incorporate it or something like that. Okay. All right. Talk to you later. I'll call you in a little bit. All right. Okay, folks. Well, anyway, so apparently Duke has lost his internet connection, and so he has no way to come back online. I guess I could have, hold on a second. There was one last thing that we really wanted to mention before we get offline, so y'all bear with me just a second while we go through the technical deal. Hey, you want to just come in by your phone? Yeah, just dial in by your phone. All yeah, apparently they did get his line clipped this time. The Zamboni ran over his internet connection. So y'all bear with me for just a second. There's one last thing we wanted to share with you. I think Duke's going to call in or come in from his phone, and we'll share this last little bit out with you. And one of the other things is we're posing a lot of questions and a lot of information here. We need as much help from everybody as we can with ideas or things that you hear. Again, if you don't want to share it out and have your name associated with it, of course, do the normal Proton Mail. Go make your Proton Mail account and send us an email to BozierWatch@protonmail.com, and we'll be glad to share that out. Merry Christmas to you as well, Mr. Barry Butler. Interesting comment. So, Linda and Wayne Whittington, I don't give a darn about city council, but how about this bus system in South Bossier and the mayor agreeing to this? Hello, Mr. Lowry.
Well, I don't know how, but I guess the internet gods has decided to let me back in.
Zamboni driver went out there and pulled your connection apart and just plugged it back in. So.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I got in for this last part, because that is really the part of the show that I really wanted to get to.
All right, and look, let me pause right there before we get into that. So we just had a mention about this bus system in South Bossier and the mayor agreeing to this blankety blank. Do we want to mention that for a second and then close it out?
Well, is that accurate that he agreed to it or not? That's hot information off the press.
Yeah, so I'll assume that these bus stop signs that we were sent via text message, these are accurate, Linda? They're really bus stop signs that magically just appeared in South Bossier?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm understanding is that, supposedly 20 bus stop signs got magically put up in South Bossier City. Nobody knew anything about it, and that supposedly these routes for these city buses are going to start on January 3rd. Well, what's the big deal about that? Well, I think there's a picture that is of something or some event that happened today that is actually what took place.
Oh yeah, the blind tiger, the bus running. But look, in Sportran's defense, they're not the only ones that have run into the blind tiger. That's like a badge of honor, apparently, in Shreveport.
Now I do have somebody.
Blind tiger.
Now I do have somebody else saying and texting me saying that it's not true on the buses. So I don't know what's real or what's not real in regards to this.
I don't know. Samantha Cheatham just commented and said she's counted 19 of them along Barksdale Boulevard. So
I don't know, maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But
we'll have to keep track of that and keep a watch on that.
Yeah. Well, let's get to this last thing.
Yeah, this is going to be a kind of a tough deal here.
This is going to be a tough deal, and we're right here at Christmas, and somebody made a comment about our show. All we do is just the negative stuff, and we touch the things that nobody wants to talk about, and we go where nobody will go. And I don't know if I'm ready to go here, but we're going to go here, and it's going to be tough. But, we've said before that, and we've talked about it kind of in general terms, that the most valuable thing that all of us have, is time.
Right.
It don't matter if you're a doctor, lawyer, you pick up trash. It don't matter what you do. At the end of the day, each person, the most valuable thing that you have in life is the time that you have. And we never know, when it's our time, when it's not our time. And I got to tell you, right here at Christmas time, it gets you to thinking more about things that are happening, from these people in Kentucky and this hurricane. I mean,
right.
Like, good gosh, man, there's a lot of people got wiped out by that thing.
Right. All right, so I've got this ready to display on the screen.
Ooh, I don't know what you got ready exactly, but
well, the post. The Facebook
Yeah.
post, right?
Okay, well, just save that one because there's several other. There's a bunch of things that
Oh wow.
I don't know which one you got first. The
Well,
GoFundMe thing.
no, the Mike Wilkes one.
Yeah. So here locally, guys. I mean, unless you've been living under a rock, a lot of y'all may not have realized, but there's been a lot of tragic things that have happened right here, getting right up to Christmas, and you know, and I'm just going to name a few names and talk about, a couple of stories. For one, some of you may have heard a story about Katie Simmons Duron. You know, she was the second of 9 children, and her mom and 3 of her siblings were traveling back down I-49, going home from something up here, some event up here in North Louisiana, and drunk driver. This happened on the 17th. Drunk driver killed, came in the oncoming lane, killed the 3 siblings. The mom, fortunately, she's going to make it, in a head-on collision. But the story was they all got, because of the trauma, sent to different hospitals. And Katie, one of the 9 siblings, she couldn't believe what was happening, and she ended up being the one that had to go to each one of the different hospitals to identify each one of her siblings, and didn't,
Wow.
because they didn't know the names, but she had to go and do it. Just, and if you read the story on this, they had a GoFundMe page, and
Yeah, I've got it pulled up on the screen now.
guys, I'm going to tell you that link. If you read it, I mean, it's going to tear your heart out.
Yeah, I'm not going to go through all of it right now, but yeah, she pretty much tells the whole story, and that's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, and that's one story, and it wouldn't be no big deal. And I'm not trying to bring everybody down, but what it's weird. There's been a lot of cases, and Jesse Henry. We shared a post earlier in the week on Bossier Watch. Jesse Henry.
Yes.
The firefighter from Fire District 2, doing maintenance on a fire truck in South Bossier, I think, and had a freak accident of a tire that exploded and tragically killed him. Unexplainable. The only thing, maybe, it was his turn. Good Lord was calling him up.
Right. Well, it just goes to show that, you never know. When it's your time, it's your time. And one of the positive things out of that story with the young fireman, was that apparently he had already set up a nonprofit organization. I think it was helping maybe some area youth or whatever. And so, I hate to say it, but with his death, a little more publicity and light was brought to that nonprofit organization, and maybe somebody will take up the mantle for that. So, it just goes to show that you never know when it's your time and where things will lead.
That's right. And the thing is with the tragedy, it hasn't just stopped with Jesse. You remember here not too many days ago the story of Caleb Hamby and Gabriel Webb from Halton, the 2 fathers that were killed. Both of them, I think, had 3 kids apiece. They were killed in a vehicle accident in East Texas. So you've got those 2 families from Halton that are going to be, without their fathers this Christmas, and just a horrible tragedy. And then,
Right.
last but not least, you've got the story of Hunter Wilkes and Lexi Wilkes, and that will kind of bring to a conclusion of where we're going with this. And
Yeah, this is, all of these stories are tough, and, they all leave multiple people, affected, family members, friends, everything. And again, it just goes to show that you never know what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes or really in the next 5 seconds. So let me go ahead, for the folks that are going to be listening to the audio version of this. So this is a post from Mike Wilkes. It was posted about 16 hours ago on Facebook. And so, folks, as we get ready to start wrapping this up, let me share this out with you. It says, "Yep, my family has met grief. Wow. Make no mistake, she is a formidable adversary. My son, Hunter Wilkes, and his beautiful wife, Lexi Nolte Wilkes, both died in a car accident Sunday morning. Jet Ray, their 2-month-old son, our beautiful grandson, was in the car with them. He was completely unharmed. I do not know the specifics of the accident. I don't need to, but there was an older gentleman driving the other vehicle. I do not know him, but whoever he is, would someone check on him and tell him how sorry I am for what he is going through. I pray for him to have a full recovery. I cannot say thank you enough times to express my appreciation to all of the first responders who were at the scene. There will be many amazing stories of God's providence evidenced through these events, but for now, just thank you. I had someone tell me, it's okay to be angry with God. Friends, if you think I am angry with God, you have lost your minds. I am a sinner. I know how rotten and wretched I am. I deserve a broken life and an eternity in hell. That is what I deserve. But in spite of what I deserve, God has loved me and my family. He has blessed us over and over again. He gave us 21 absolutely amazing years with Hunter. To my God, I say thank you. To sin, brokenness, grief, and destruction, I want to say something. I know y'all plan on being permanent residents in my heart, but I think y'all forgot who my Savior is. That's powerful.
So, coming up on Christmas, guys, hug your family, be thankful for the time that you have, and use your time wisely, and just make the most of it and cherish every bit of it that the good Lord gives you.
Yeah, and to me, one of the amazing things that he says in here is that he's thankful that God gave him 21 years with his son. In spite of all the tragedy that's hit their family, he at least had that 21 years with his son. That's an amazing way to look at the situation. And, we all have negative things that happen in our lives. We all have down times. I've gone through them, going through them. You've gone through them, going through them. Everybody is. But sometimes it's better to step back and look at the things that you are thankful for and, try to do your best through these tragedies. So, I really don't have any more to say after all that.
Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks for watching, and we will see you next week.
All right, folks, same deal. Merry Christmas. Thanks for watching. Spend it with your families. Be thankful for every minute and every second you have with them. Good night.